Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Lily Hartwell's hands trembled as she stared at the medical bill. $300,000. The numbers blurred through her tears, but the devastating reality remained crystal clear. Her mother was dying, and Lily couldn't afford to save her. The fluorescent lights of Nexus Industries' research lab hummed overhead as Lily sat in the break room, surrounded by sterile white walls that had become her second home over the past 8 months. Her biochemistry degree had earned her this lab technician position, but the salary barely covered her modest apartment rent, much less the astronomical cost of her mother's experimental cancer treatment. Dr. Hartwell would be perfect for the clinical trial. Her mother's oncologist had explained that morning. But without insurance coverage for experimental treatments, Lily closed her eyes, remembering her mother's frail hand squeezing hers. "Baby girl, don't you worry about me. I've lived a good life." Lily couldn't accept defeat. Eleanor Hartwell had raised her single-handedly after her father abandoned them when Lily was 7. Working 3 jobs, her mother had sacrificed everything to put Lily through college. Now it was Lily's turn to fight. The break room door swung open. Sarah, Ethan Blackwood's personal assistant, rushed in with her phone pressed to her ear, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. "Mr. Blackwood, I understand the board's timeline, but finding a suitable candidate for this arrangement isn't like posting a job listing," Sarah whispered. Unaware that Lily occupied the corner booth, Lily's head snapped up. "The lawyers confirmed, it's completely legal. A contractual marriage for producing an heir would satisfy your grandfather's will," Sarah continued, pacing near the coffee machine. 1 year, 1 child, inheritance secured. But finding a woman willing to enter such an arrangement, Lily's pulse quickened. Ethan Blackwood, the brilliant, devastatingly handsome billionaire who owned this company, needed a wife to bear his child. Lily needed money to save her mother's life. "I'll have candidates by tomorrow," Sarah concluded before hanging up. Lily stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Sarah startled, nearly dropping her phone. "Lily, I didn't see you there. How long have you been?" "Long enough." Lily stepped forward with newfound confidence. "I want to speak with Mr. Blackwood about his arrangement." Sarah's eyes widened. "You can't be serious. This isn't, I understand perfectly. He needs a wife to bear his child. I need money for my mother's cancer treatment. It's business." "Mr. Blackwood doesn't know who you are," Sarah protested. "You're a lab technician. He's expecting someone from his social circle, someone who can give him a healthy, intelligent child." Lily interrupted. "I have a biochemistry degree from Harvard. I'm 26, healthy, with no legal troubles. What more qualifications does he need?" Sarah stared at her for a long moment. "Lily, this isn't some romantic fairy tale. Mr. Blackwood is difficult, cold. He doesn't do emotions or relationships. This would be purely business." "Good," Lily replied firmly. "Because I'm not looking for love. I'm looking for a way to save my mother's life." 20 minutes later, Lily found herself standing outside the elevator to Ethan Blackwood's executive floor, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd changed from her lab coat into her best professional outfit, a black blazer and skirt that she'd worn to job interviews, and tied her natural curls back in a neat bun. The elevator doors opened to reveal a pristine hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a breathtaking view of the Seattle skyline. Lily's heels clicked against the marble floor as she approached the massive oak doors marked with Ethan Blackwood's name. She knocked twice and heard a deep voice call, "Come in." Ethan Blackwood sat behind an imposing mahogany desk, his attention focused on multiple computer screens displaying complex financial data. Even seated, Lily could tell he was tall and powerfully built. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his sharp jawline was shadowed with the hint of 5 o'clock stubble. When he finally looked up, Lily felt her breath catch. His eyes were the most stunning shade of steel blue she'd ever seen, but they were cold, calculating. They swept over her with clinical assessment, and Lily fought the urge to fidget under his scrutiny. "You're not Sarah," he observed, his voice carrying a slight irritation. "No, I'm Lily Hartwell. I work in your research lab. Lily stepped forward, extending her hand with forced confidence. I understand you're looking for a wife. Ethan's eyebrows rose slightly, but his expression remained impassive. He didn't take her offered hand. Is that so? Sarah mentioned your situation. The inheritance requirement. I'd like to propose a mutually beneficial arrangement. Ethan leaned back in his leather chair, studying her with those piercing blue eyes. You want to marry me for money? Yes, Lily replied without hesitation. My mother needs expensive cancer treatment that I can't afford. You need a wife to produce an heir. It's a business transaction that benefits us both. You're very direct, Miss Hartwell. Dr. Hartwell. Lily corrected softly. And yes, I believe in honesty. In business dealings. Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. Surprise, perhaps even a hint of respect. He stood and walked around his desk, and Lily had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. He was at least 6'3", with broad shoulders that filled out his expensive suit perfectly. What makes you think you're qualified for this particular position? He asked, crossing his arms. Lily lifted her chin. I'm intelligent, healthy, and educated. I understand this would be a contractual arrangement with specific terms and expectations. I'm not looking for romance or emotional involvement, just the financial compensation necessary to save my mother's life. Ethan studied her for a long moment, walking slowly around her as if inspecting a piece of artwork. Lily forced herself to remain still, though every instinct screamed at her to run from this cold, intimidating man. You're younger than I expected, he mused, and quite beautiful. Heat crept up Lily's neck, but she kept her voice steady. Will that be a problem? On the contrary, good genetics are important for producing a healthy child. His clinical tone made Lily's stomach tighten. Tell me about your family medical history. For the next 30 minutes, Ethan interrogated Lily with the thoroughness of a job interview. He asked about her education, her health, her family background, and her expectations. With each question, Lily felt more like a prized breeding mare than a potential wife, but she answered honestly. Her mother's life depended on this. $2 million, Ethan said finally, returning to his seat, paid in installments. $500,000 upon signing the marriage contract, $500,000 upon confirmation of pregnancy, and $1 million upon the birth of a healthy child. Lily's knees nearly gave out. $2 million was more than enough for her mother's treatment, with plenty left over for ongoing care. However, Ethan continued, his tone sharp. There would be strict conditions. This is a business arrangement. Nothing more. We would maintain separate living quarters, minimal personal interaction, and absolutely no emotional involvement. The marriage would last exactly 1 year from the date of the child's birth. And the conception? Lily asked, her cheeks burning. Artificial insemination. Clean, clinical, efficient. Ethan's expression remained completely neutral. No unnecessary physical contact. Lily nodded, though something deep inside her felt strangely disappointed by his cold approach. I accept your terms. Ethan's lips curved in what might have been a smile, but there was no warmth in it. Welcome to the family, Dr. Hartwell. As Lily left his office an hour later, with a preliminary contract in her hands, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just made a deal with the devil himself. But when she thought of her mother lying in that hospital bed, she knew she'd do it again in a heartbeat. Love was a luxury she couldn't afford. Saving her mother's life was worth any sacrifice, even marrying a man who seemed to have ice water running through his veins instead of blood. Chapter 2. Bound by paper. 3 weeks later, Lily stood before a judge in Seattle's courthouse, wearing a simple cream dress purchased the day before. The ceremony was as sterile as the man beside her. Ethan wore an immaculate charcoal suit, his expression unreadable as they exchanged vows that meant nothing beyond legal documentation. You may kiss the bride, Judge Thompson announced with a warm smile that seemed wildly inappropriate. Ethan turned to Lily, his steel blue eyes meeting hers briefly before he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers in the most perfunctory kiss imaginable. It lasted perhaps 2 seconds, but Lily felt an unexpected jolt of electricity. Ethan pulled away immediately, his expression unchanged. Congratulations, mister. and Mrs. Blackwood, the judge said, but Ethan was already turning away, checking his phone. Lily signed the marriage certificate with hands that trembled slightly, not from nerves about the ceremony, but from the realization that she was now legally bound to a man who treated their wedding like a business meeting. She glanced at Ethan, who was scrolling through emails with the same attention he might give to quarterly reports. "The car is waiting," he said without looking up. "I'll have you moved into the estate by tonight." "About that," Lily began, but Ethan was already walking toward the exit. The Blackwood estate was a sprawling modern mansion perched on the shores of Lake Washington, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered stunning views of the water. Lily had never seen anything so beautiful or intimidating. As their car pulled through the elaborate iron gates, she felt like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole into a world where everything was foreign and unwelcoming. Ethan's housekeeper, Mrs. Lynn, was a kind woman in her 60s who greeted Lily with genuine warmth. The first human emotion Lily had encountered since agreeing to this arrangement. "Mrs. Blackwood, what a pleasure to finally meet you, Mrs. Lynn said, taking Lily's single suitcase. "Mr. Blackwood has told me so little about you, but I can see you're lovely." Lily glanced at Ethan, who was already heading toward his study. "Thank you, Mrs. Lynn. I hope I won't be too much trouble." "Nonsense. This house needs more life in it." "Mrs. Lynn's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Mr. Blackwood works too much. Maybe now he'll remember to eat dinner occasionally." "I doubt I'll have much influence over his habits," Lily replied honestly. "Mrs. Lynn led her up a grand staircase to the second floor, past several closed doors, to a beautifully appointed guest suite at the far end of the hall. "This will be your room, Mrs. Lynn announced, opening the door to reveal a spacious bedroom decorated in soft blues and whites. "Mr. Blackwood's master suite is at the other end of the hall." Lily nodded, unsurprised. Ethan had been clear about maintaining separate living spaces. She unpacked her few belongings, hanging her modest wardrobe in a closet that could have housed her entire apartment. Everything about this place reminded her how different their worlds were. Dinner was served in a formal dining room that could seat 20. Lily sat at one end of the massive table, while Ethan occupied the other, the distance between them emphasized by elegant place settings and flickering candles that seemed absurdly romantic. "The fertility clinic appointment is Thursday," Ethan announced, cutting his salmon with surgical precision. "Dr. Lopez is the city's best reproductive endocrinologist." Lily nodded, focusing on her food. "What about living arrangements during the pregnancy? Medical care?" "You'll have the finest prenatal care available," Ethan replied matter-of-factly. "Dr. Emily Chen will be your obstetrician. She delivered the mayor's twins last year." "And after the birth?" Ethan paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. "We'll discuss that when the time comes." The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. Ethan excused himself immediately afterward, disappearing into his study and leaving Lily alone in the cavernous house. She wandered the halls, admiring the expensive artwork and wondering how anyone could live somewhere so beautiful yet so cold. She found herself in Ethan's study doorway around 10 o'clock, drawn by the soft glow of his desk lamp. He was hunched over his computer, his tie loosened and his sleeves rolled up. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked almost human. "Is there something you need?" he asked without looking up. "I just wanted to thank you," Lily said softly. "I called the hospital today. My mother starts treatment tomorrow." Ethan's fingers stilled on the keyboard for a moment before resuming their rapid typing. "Good." Lily waited for more, but he offered nothing else. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" "What?" "Why does your grandfather's will require you to have a child? It seems like an odd stipulation." Ethan finally looked up, his expression guarded. "My grandfather believed that a man without a family lacks proper motivation to build a lasting legacy. He wanted to ensure the Blackwood name continued." "And you agree with that philosophy?" "I think my grandfather was a brilliant businessman who built this company from nothing," Ethan replied, his tone suggesting the conversation was over. But Lily pressed on. "What about what you want? Don't you want a real family someday?" Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. Pain, perhaps, or anger. But it was gone so quickly, Lily wondered if she'd imagined it. Family is a luxury I can't afford, he said, returning his attention to his computer. Good night, Lily. Lily retreated to her room, but sleep eluded her. She lay in the enormous bed, staring at the ceiling and wondering what had happened to make Ethan so closed off. He was only 32, successful beyond most people's wildest dreams, and undeniably attractive. Why was he so determined to avoid emotional connections? The next morning, Lily woke to find a black credit card and a note on her nightstand. For appropriate clothing and anything else you might need. Lily stared at the card, understanding the implication. Her simple wardrobe wasn't suitable for a billionaire's wife, even a fake one. She'd need to look the part if they were going to convince anyone their marriage was real. She spent the day shopping with Mrs. Lynn, who seemed delighted to have another woman in the house. Together, they selected elegant dresses, professional suits, and casual wear that would help Lily blend into Ethan's sophisticated world. Mr. Blackwood's first wife loved to shop. Mrs. Lynn mentioned casually as they examined a beautiful silk dress. Lily's head snapped up. First wife? Mrs. Lynn's face fell. Oh my, I thought you knew. Mr. Blackwood was engaged 5 years ago. Claire Summers. She was killed in a car accident 2 weeks before their wedding. Lily felt the blood drain from her face. He was in love with her? Oh. Yes. Mrs. Lynn said sadly. He was a completely different man then. Smiled, laughed, talked about their future together. After Claire died, she shook her head. He became like ice. I don't think I've seen him truly happy since. Suddenly, Ethan's cold demeanor made perfect sense. He wasn't naturally heartless. He was protecting himself from ever being hurt that badly again. Lily felt an unexpected pang of sympathy for the man who had become her husband. That evening at dinner, Lily found herself studying Ethan's face, looking for signs of the man he used to be. When he caught her staring, she looked away quickly. The clinic appointment went well, she said, filling the silence. Doctor, Lopez is very confident about the procedure. Good, Ethan replied, but Lily noticed his hand tightened slightly around his wine glass. Ethan, she said gently, I know about Claire. Ethan's entire body went rigid. His eyes flashed with something dangerous. That's not a topic for discussion. I just wanted you to know that I understand. You understand nothing. Ethan cut her off, his voice like ice. Claire was my business, just like this marriage is business. I suggest you remember that. He stood abruptly and left the room, leaving Lily alone with her racing heart and the growing realization that her emotionally detached husband might not be as immune to feeling as he pretended to be. Later that night, Lily was awakened by the sound of someone moving around downstairs. She crept to her door and listened, hearing Ethan's voice drifting up from his study. He was talking to someone on the phone, his tone gentler than she'd ever heard it. I know, Mom. Yes, I'm taking care of myself. The marriage is just. It's complicated. A long pause. No, she's not like Claire. She's different. Stronger, maybe. I don't know if that makes this easier or harder. Lily's heart clenched at the vulnerability in his voice. This was the real Ethan Blackwood, the man hidden beneath layers of ice and pain. And despite her best intentions to keep this arrangement purely business, Lily found herself wanting to reach that man, to help him heal from wounds that were still bleeding 5 years later. As she returned to bed, Lily realized that saving her mother's life might not be the only rescue mission she'd undertaken by marrying Ethan Blackwood. Chapter 3. Unexpected News. 2 months after their wedding, Lily stared at the ultrasound screen in Dr. Lopez's office, her mouth falling open. The fertility specialist beamed as she pointed to the monitor. Congratulations, Mrs. Blackwood. You're having twins, Doctor, Lopez announced, adjusting the ultrasound wand for a clearer view. 2 healthy heartbeats, both measuring perfectly for 8 weeks. Lily's hands flew to her mouth. Twins? You're certain? Absolutely. See here, Doctor. Lopez indicated 2 distinct shapes, baby A and baby B, developing beautifully. This is wonderful news. Lily glanced at Ethan, who sat rigidly beside her examination table. His face had gone pale, and for a moment she thought he might faint. His carefully controlled composure had cracked, revealing something resembling panic. 2 babies, he said quietly, as if trying to process the information. Sometimes when we transfer 2 embryos, both take, Dr. Lopez explained cheerfully. You're very lucky. Twin pregnancies can be more challenging, but you're young and healthy. I don't foresee any problems. As they drove home in Ethan's Tesla, the silence was deafening. Lily kept stealing glances at him, but his expression remained unreadable behind his designer sunglasses. His hands gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. Are you upset about the twins? Lily finally asked. Upset? Ethan's voice was carefully neutral. Why would I be upset? This exceeds expectations for securing my inheritance. His clinical response stung, but Lily was beginning to recognize it as his default defense mechanism. 2 babies will be more work than we planned. I have enough resources to handle any complications, Ethan replied curtly. Lily bit back her response. Everything was always about resources and logistics with him, never about emotions or the actual human beings involved. But she'd seen glimpses of the man beneath the ice, and she suspected this news had affected him more than he was letting on. That evening, Lily's pregnancy symptoms struck with vengeance. She barely made it to her bathroom before violently losing her dinner. The morning sickness that had been mild suddenly became debilitating. She spent the next hour on the cold tile floor, too weak to move. A soft knock interrupted her misery. Lily, are you all right? Ethan's voice carried genuine concern, though she must have imagined it. Lily tried to answer, but another wave of nausea hit. The door opened, and she heard Ethan's sharp intake of breath. Jesus, Lily. Strong hands gathered her hair back as she was sick again. When the wave passed, Ethan helped her sit against the bathtub, his touch surprisingly gentle. How long have you been like this? He asked, pressing the back of his hand to her forehead. Since dinner, Lily managed weakly. I'm sorry, this is probably more than you bargained for. Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. Don't apologize for being pregnant with my children. The possessive way he said my children sent an unexpected warmth through Lily's chest. Ethan disappeared and returned with a cool washcloth, kneeling beside her to gently wipe her face. His movements were careful, almost tender, and Lily found herself studying his profile in surprise. This gentleman seemed like a different person entirely from the cold businessman she'd married. Better? He asked softly. Lily nodded, not trusting her voice. Ethan helped her to her feet and guided her to bed, pulling the covers up to her chin with surprising care. I'll call Dr. Chen in the morning, he said. There might be something she can prescribe for the nausea. You don't have to take care of me, Lily whispered. This wasn't part of our agreement. Ethan paused at her bedside, his expression unreadable in the dim light. You're carrying my children. That makes your well-being my responsibility. After he left, Lily lay awake, thinking about the gentleness in his touch, the concern in his voice. For a few minutes, he'd let his guard down completely, and she'd glimpsed the man he might have been before grief hardened his heart. The next morning, Lily woke to find a steaming mug of ginger tea on her nightstand, along with a plate of plain toast and a handwritten note. Dr. Chen says ginger helps with nausea. Mrs. Lin made this specially for you. Lily's heart fluttered at the unexpected thoughtfulness. When she made it downstairs, she found Ethan in the kitchen with Mrs. Lin, deep in conversation about nutrition and prenatal vitamins. Ah, Mrs. Lily, Mrs. Lin beamed. Mr. Blackwood has been asking about the best foods for expecting mothers. I've made a special shopping list. Ethan looked slightly embarrassed at being caught showing concern. Twin pregnancies require additional nutritional support, he said stiffly. Over the following weeks, Lily noticed subtle changes in Ethan's behavior. He started working from home more often, claiming it was more efficient. He insisted on driving her to all her medical appointments, sitting through lengthy discussions about prenatal care with an attention to detail that surprised even the doctors. When Lily fainted during a particularly stressful day at the lab, Ethan arrived at the hospital before the ambulance had even finished its route. He burst through the emergency room doors, looking wild-eyed and panicked, demanding to see her immediately. Where is she? He snapped at the triage nurse. Where is my wife? Lily was touched by his obvious concern, Even as the doctors assured him it was just a normal pregnancy symptom, exacerbated by her demanding work schedule. "You're not going back to the lab," Ethan announced as they drove home. "It's too stressful." "I can't just quit my job," Lily protested. You need to focus on staying healthy, Ethan. Cut her off. The babies are what matter now." Lily studied his profile, noting the tension in his jaw. "Ethan, why does this feel like more than just protecting your investment?" He was quiet for so long that Lily thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because losing someone you're supposed to protect is a kind of hell I wouldn't wish on anyone." Lily's heart clenched at the raw pain in his voice. Claire. He was thinking about Claire and how he'd failed to protect her. Without thinking, Lily reached over and placed her hand on his arm. "You didn't fail her," she said softly. "Car accidents aren't anyone's fault." Ethan's muscle tensed under her touch. "You don't know what you're talking about." But he didn't pull away from her hand, and Lily felt something shift between them. The walls he'd built were still there, but tiny cracks were beginning to show. That night, Lily was awakened by sounds from the kitchen. She found Ethan standing at the stove at 2 o'clock in the morning, making another cup of ginger tea. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly. Ethan startled, nearly dropping the mug. "You should be resting." "So should you." Lily moved closer, noting the dark circles under his eyes. "How long has it been since you've had a full night's sleep?" "Sleep is overrated," Ethan replied, but there was no conviction in his voice. "Is it Claire?" Lily asked gently. "Do you have nightmares about her?" Ethan's hands stilled on the mug. "Lily, I know you don't want to talk about it, but keeping everything locked inside isn't healthy, especially not now when we're bringing children into this world." "This isn't about Claire," Ethan said, but Lily could see the lie in his eyes. "Then what is it about?" Ethan turned to face her fully, and Lily was startled by the vulnerability she saw in his expression. "It's about the fact that somewhere along the way, this stopped feeling like a business arrangement to me, and that terrifies me more than I can explain." Lily's heart stopped beating for a moment. "Ethan, I watch you sleep sometimes," he admitted, his voice rough with emotion. "I listen for your breathing, make sure you're okay. I find myself thinking about you during meetings, wondering if you're eating enough, if you're happy. That wasn't supposed to happen." Lily stepped closer, drawn by the pain and confusion in his voice. "What if it's not a bad thing? What if caring about each other makes this easier instead of harder? Because caring about someone gives them the power to destroy you," Ethan replied with brutal honesty, "and I can't survive being destroyed again." Before Lily could respond, Ethan handed her the ginger tea and left the kitchen, but not before she saw the tears he was trying to hide. As Lily sipped the tea he'd made for her, she realized that Ethan Blackwood wasn't just protecting himself from love, he was protecting himself from hope. And somehow, she'd become the thing he both wanted and feared most. The question was, would she be brave enough to help him tear down the walls he'd built, even if it meant risking her own heart in the process? Chapter 4. Cracks in the Armor. At 16 weeks pregnant, Lily had developed a noticeable bump that she found herself unconsciously protecting throughout the day. Ethan seemed to notice her every movement, his protective instincts intensifying as her pregnancy progressed. "You shouldn't carry that," he said, appearing beside her as she attempted to bring a box of books downstairs. "It's not heavy," Lily protested, but Ethan was already taking the box from her hands. "Doctor, Chen said nothing over 10 pounds, he reminded her, his tone brooking no argument. Lily watched him carry the box effortlessly, admiring how his muscles moved beneath his fitted shirt. Over the past month, she'd caught herself noticing things about Ethan unrelated to their arrangement. The way he looked first thing in the morning with tousled hair, the rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face, the gentle way he spoke to Mrs. Lynn's elderly mother during her visits. "Thank you," Lily said softly as he set the box down in the library. Ethan nodded, but instead of leaving immediately as he usually did, he lingered. "What are these books?" "Poetry, mostly. Some literature." Lily felt heat creep up her neck. "I know it sounds silly, but I like the idea of reading to the babies while they're still." She gestured to her belly. Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. "It's not silly. Studies show babies can hear around 20 weeks. Neural development benefits from language pattern exposure. Lily smiled at his clinical explanation for something inherently emotional. You've been researching pregnancy development? It's important to stay informed, Ethan replied stiffly. But Lily caught the slight flush in his cheeks. Would you like to feel them move? The words escaped before Lily could stop them. Ethan's eyes widened. They're moving already? Just little flutters, but yes. The doctor says twins are typically more active. Lily placed her hand on her bump. They were particularly active during your conference call yesterday. I think they like your voice. Ethan stared at her belly with such longing that Lily's heart ached for him. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached for his hand. Lily, I don't think. It's okay, she whispered, guiding his large, warm hand to the spot where she'd last felt movement. Just wait. They stood perfectly still for several moments, Ethan's hand pressed against her belly, his breathing shallow. Then, as if on cue, one of the babies shifted, creating a small but distinct movement against his palm. Ethan's sharp intake of breath was audible in the quiet library. Was that baby A, I think, Lily said, watching the wonder spread across Ethan's face. He or she has been the more active one. They're really in there, Ethan murmured, his voice filled with awe. His thumb moved gently across her belly, in an unconscious caress that sent shivers through Lily's entire body. Did you doubt it? Lily asked softly. Sometimes it still doesn't feel real, Ethan admitted, his eyes meeting hers. The idea that in a few months, there will be two little people who are half of me and half of you. The intimacy of the moment was overwhelming. Lily found herself lost in Ethan's steel blue eyes, seeing deeper emotion there than she'd ever witnessed before. His hand was still on her belly, warm and protective, and she had the wild urge to cover it with both of hers and never let him pull away. Ethan, she whispered, not sure what she wanted to say. I should let you rest, Ethan said abruptly, removing his hand and stepping back. But Lily caught the reluctance in his movement, the way his eyes lingered on her face before he turned away. That evening, Lily attended her first social function as Ethan's wife. A charity gala for children's literacy. She wore an elegant black maternity gown that showed off her small bump beautifully, and she'd styled her hair in soft curls that framed her face. When she appeared at the top of the staircase, Ethan looked up from his phone and went completely still. His eyes traveled slowly from her face down to her dress and back up again, his expression unreadable but intense. You look beautiful, he said quietly, and Lily felt her cheeks warm at the genuine appreciation in his voice. Thank you, she replied, accepting his offered arm. You clean up pretty well yourself. Ethan's smile was small but real, and Lily felt her heart skip a beat. In his perfectly tailored tuxedo, he was devastatingly handsome, the kind of man who could stop traffic with a glance. The gala was held at Seattle's most exclusive hotel, filled with the city's elite society. Lily felt nervous about representing Ethan properly, but he stayed close to her side throughout the evening, his hand resting protectively on her lower back as he introduced her to business associates and friends. My wife, Dr. Lily Blackwood, he would say, and Lily noticed how naturally the title seemed to roll off his tongue. You two make such a lovely couple, gushed Mrs. Larson, the wife of a prominent judge. When is the baby due? Late fall, Lily replied, unconsciously placing her hand on her bump. Actually, we're having twins. Twins? How wonderful, Mrs. Larson beamed. Your husband must be over the moon. Lily glanced at Ethan, expecting his usual controlled response, but was surprised to see genuine pride in his expression. We're very excited, he said, his arm tightening slightly around Lily's waist. As the evening progressed, Lily noticed how naturally they moved together, how Ethan anticipated her needs before she voiced them. When she looked tired, he suggested they sit. When she mentioned being thirsty, he appeared with sparkling water. When an older gentleman made an inappropriate comment about pregnant women, Ethan's response was swift and cutting, enough to send the man scurrying away. You didn't have to do that, Lily said as they watched the man retreat. Yes, I did, Ethan replied firmly. No one talks to my wife that way. The possessiveness in his voice sent heat pooling in Lily's belly. The way he said my wife sounded nothing like a business arrangement. During the silent auction, Lily stopped in front of a beautiful painting of a mother, reading to two children under a tree. The tenderness of the scene brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "Pregnancy hormones," she laughed, wiping her eyes. "Everything makes me cry lately." Ethan studied the painting with an unreadable expression. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. "The way she's holding them, it looks like love." "What does love look like to you?" Lily asked impulsively. Ethan was quiet for so long that Lily thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely audible over the crowd around them. "I used to think it looked like Claire. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the perfect society wife. But lately," he paused, his eyes finding Lily's face. "Lately, I think it might look like courage, like someone who would fight for the people they care about, even when they're scared." Lily's breath caught. The way he was looking at her made her feel like she was the only woman in the room. The only woman who had ever mattered. "Ethan, Dr. and Mrs. Blackwood," a jovial voice interrupted them. "I've been looking for you everywhere." The spell was broken as they were drawn into conversation with other guests, but Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between them. Later, during the drive home, Ethan seemed lost in thought. Lily watched the city lights play across his profile, noting the tension in his jaw. "Thank you for tonight," she said softly, "for introducing me as your wife instead of hiding me away." "Why would I hide you away?" Ethan asked, seeming genuinely puzzled. "I don't know. I just thought, given the circumstances of our marriage, Lily." Ethan pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to face her fully. "Our marriage might have started as a business arrangement, but you are my wife. You're carrying my children. Anyone who has a problem with that can go to hell." The fierce protectiveness in his voice made Lily's heart race. "You really mean that?" "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," Ethan replied, his eyes intense in the dim light of the car. They stared at each other for a long moment, the air between them charged with unspoken tension. Lily felt herself leaning toward him, drawn by the magnetic pull of his presence. When Ethan suddenly cleared his throat and turned back to the road, "We should get you home," he said, his voice slightly rough. "You need your rest." As they drove the rest of the way in charged silence, Lily realized that Ethan Blackwood was fighting a losing battle against his own heart. The question was whether he would surrender to his feelings or continue building walls to protect himself from the possibility of love and loss again. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. This arrangement was no longer just business for either of them, no matter how hard they both tried to pretend otherwise. Chapter 5. The Almost Kiss. 3 weeks after the charity gala, Lily found herself sitting across from Ethan in Giovanni's, Seattle's most romantic Italian restaurant. The intimate setting, with dim lighting, flickering candles, and soft violin music, seemed wildly inappropriate for their business arrangement. But Ethan had insisted they needed to maintain appearances. "People are asking questions about our marriage," he'd explained earlier. "We need to be seen together more." Looking happy. Now, watching him study the wine menu with the same intensity he brought to quarterly reports, Lily wondered if Ethan understood how this looked or how it was affecting her. "You're staring," Ethan observed without looking up. "Sorry," Lily said, heat creeping up her neck. "I was thinking about how strange this is." "Strange how?" "We're pretending to be happily married for everyone else, but we barely know each other." Lily gestured around the romantic restaurant. "I don't even know your favorite color or childhood dreams." Ethan finally looked up, his steel blue eyes meeting hers. "Those things aren't relevant to our arrangement." "Maybe not, but they're relevant to me." Lily leaned forward slightly. "I'm carrying your children, Ethan. Don't you think we should at least try to be friends?" Something flickered in Ethan's expression. "Blue," he said quietly. "What?" "My favorite color is blue, like the lake on a clear day." His eyes seemed to soften as he looked at her. "What about you?" "Green," Lily replied, surprised by his answer. "Forest green, like the trees around my grandmother's cabin where I spent summers as a child." Ethan nodded, as if filing away this information for future reference. "And I wanted to be a marine biologist when I grew up. I was fascinated by ocean life. The idea that there was this whole world beneath the surface that most people never saw." "What changed?" Lily asked, genuinely curious. Reality, Ethan replied with a bitter laugh. My father died when I was 16, and I had to step up to help run the family business. Marine biology became a luxury I couldn't afford. Lily felt a pang of sympathy. I'm sorry. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was what it was, Ethan said, clearly uncomfortable with her sympathy. What about you? Have you always wanted to be a biochemist? Actually, I wanted to be a teacher, Lily admitted. Elementary school. I loved the idea of helping children discover the world around them. But my mother sacrificed so much for my education. I felt like I owed it to her to pursue something more significant. Teaching is significant, Ethan said firmly. Shaping young minds. Inspiring the next generation. There's nothing more important than that. Lily was touched by his conviction. Maybe someday, when the babies are older, I'll consider it again. The conversation flowed more easily after that. Ethan told her about his college years at MIT, his early struggles to prove himself in the business world, his secret love of poetry that he'd never shared with anyone. Lily found herself laughing at his dry humor and hanging on his every word as he revealed glimpses of the man beneath his controlled exterior. I can't picture you reading poetry, Lily said as their main courses arrived. Wordsworth is particularly good, Ethan replied with a slight smile, though I prefer Byron for his rebellion against convention. Fitting, considering your name, Lily teased. My mother's choice. She was an English literature professor before she married my father. Ethan's expression grew distant. She used to read to me every night. Byron, Shelley, Keats, all the romantics. She sounds wonderful. Do you see her often? Not as often as I should, Ethan admitted. She lives in Paris now, teaching at the Sorbonne. We talk occasionally, but you don't want her to worry about you, Lily finished softly. Ethan's eyes met hers with surprise. How did you? Because that's the kind of man you are. You protect the people you care about, even if it means keeping them at a distance. Something raw and vulnerable flashed in Ethan's eyes before he looked away. You think you have me figured out. I think you're more complicated than you want people to believe, Lily replied gently, and I think you're lonely. Ethan's jaw tightened. I have everything I need. Do you? Lily challenged softly. When was the last time you really laughed? When did you last do something just because it made you happy? Happiness is overrated, Ethan said, but there was no conviction in his voice. No, it's not. It's what makes life worth living. Lily reached across the table and placed her hand over his. Don't you want that for our children? For them to see their father happy? Ethan stared down at their joined hands, his thumb unconsciously stroking across her knuckles in a gesture so gentle it made Lily's heart ache. I used to be happy, he said quietly, with Claire. But happiness is dangerous. It makes you careless, makes you believe good things can last forever. What if they can? Lily whispered. What if you're just too scared to find out? Ethan's eyes snapped up to meet hers, and Lily saw the war raging inside him, the desire to believe her warring with his fear of being hurt again. Lily, he began, his voice rough with emotion. I know you think caring about someone gives them power to destroy you, Lily continued, her heart racing. But what if it also gives them the power to heal you? Ethan's hand tightened around hers. You don't understand. Then help me understand, Lily pleaded. Stop hiding from me. Stop pretending this is just business when we both know. It stopped being that a long time ago. The air between them crackled with tension. Ethan's eyes dropped to her lips, and Lily felt her breath catch as he leaned slightly forward. For a moment, she thought he might actually. We should go, Ethan said abruptly, pulling his hand away and signaling for the check. It's getting late. Lily felt as if she'd been slapped. Ethan, the car is waiting, he said without meeting her eyes, his walls slamming back into place with almost audible force. The drive home was excruciating. Ethan stared straight ahead, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. Lily sat in stunned silence, her heart breaking a little more with each passing mile. When they reached the estate, Ethan got out of the car without a word and headed straight for his study. Lily followed him, her patience finally snapping. Are you seriously going to pretend that didn't happen? She called out as he tried to close the study door. Ethan turned. his expression cold and distant. Nothing happened. Bullshit, Lily said, shocking them both with her vehemence. Something has been building between us for weeks, and you know it. You're confusing gratitude with something else, Ethan replied icily. I've been kind because you're carrying my children. Don't read more into it. Lily felt tears prick her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. So tonight meant nothing? Everything you told me about yourself, the way you looked at me, was an act? For appearances, remember? I'm good at playing a role when necessary. The cruelty in his words hit Lily like a physical blow. You're lying. Am I? Ethan's smile was arctic. You're a means to an end, Lily. Very attractive and intelligent, but nothing more. If you've convinced yourself otherwise, that's your mistake. Lily stared at him, seeing the pain he was trying to hide behind his cruel words. You're doing this because you're scared. Because for a minute there, you almost let yourself feel something real. I'm doing this because I'm not interested in playing house with you, Ethan replied coldly. We have an arrangement. I suggest you remember that. Fine, Lily said, her voice shaking with hurt and anger. But you're a coward. Ethan Blackwood. You're so terrified of being hurt again that you'd rather spend your life alone than take a chance on something beautiful. Better alone than destroyed. Ethan shot back. You're already destroyed, Lily shouted, her composure finally cracking. You're walking around like a ghost, pretending to be alive, while your heart is buried with a woman who died 5 years ago. At least, she got to experience love before she died. What's your excuse? Ethan's face went white, his eyes blazing with fury. Get out. Gladly, Lily replied, tears now streaming down her cheeks. But you should know something. I wasn't confusing gratitude with anything else. I was falling in love with you, you complete and utter fool, and you just threw it away because you're too much of a coward to love me back. Lily left Ethan standing in his study, probably in shock, and ran upstairs to her room. She slammed the door and collapsed on her bed, sobbing for the man she'd married and the love she'd been stupid enough to think might be possible. Outside her door, she heard footsteps pause and linger before moving away. Lily pressed her face into her pillow and cried until she had no tears left, mourning the connection she'd thought was real and the future she'd been foolish enough to imagine. In his study below, Ethan sat in his chair, staring at nothing, Lily's words echoing in his mind. I was falling in love with you. The very thing he'd been trying to prevent had happened anyway, and he'd handled it in the cruelest way possible. But it was better this way, he told himself. Better to hurt her now than to let her hope for something that could only end in disaster. Because Ethan Blackwood was cursed to lose everyone he loved, and he'd rather be alone forever than watch Lily's light dim the way Claire's had, even if it meant destroying them both in the process. Chapter 6. Jealousy and Realization. For 3 days after their disastrous dinner, Ethan and Lily moved around each other like polite strangers. Ethan buried himself in work, leaving early and returning late, while Lily spent time reading in the library or walking the estate gardens. The easy companionship they'd been building was replaced by careful, painful distance that left them both miserable. Mrs. Lynn watched their interactions with worried eyes, clearly sensing the tension. Married couples have fights, she told Lily as they arranged flowers in the kitchen. It doesn't mean anything is broken forever. Some things can't be fixed, Lily replied sadly, her hand unconsciously resting on her growing belly. At 20 weeks, her bump was pronounced, and she'd started feeling regular movement from both babies. Mr. Blackwood asks about you, Mrs. Lynn said gently. Every morning, he wants to know if you've eaten breakfast, if you slept well, if the babies are active. Lily's heart clenched. Even when being cruel, Ethan couldn't stop caring about her well-being. He's just protecting his investment. Mrs. Lynn gave her a knowing look. That man doesn't ask about investments with tears in his eyes. Before Lily could respond, the doorbell rang. Mrs. Lynn went to answer it, returning with a warm smile and a tall, handsome black man with kind brown eyes and an easy grin. Lily! Jamal Carter swept her into a careful hug, mindful of her pregnancy. Look at you, you're glowing. Lily laughed, feeling genuinely happy for the first time in days. What are you doing here? Business conference in Seattle. I couldn't be this close without seeing my favorite girl. Jamal pulled back to study her face, his expression growing concern. "You look tired. Are you taking care of yourself?" Jamal had been Lily's closest friend since childhood. They'd survived the same tough neighborhood, supported each other through high school, and maintained their friendship even when Lily went to Harvard while Jamal stayed in Chicago for law school. He knew her better than anyone, except maybe the husband she was currently not speaking to. "I'm fine," Lily insisted, leading Jamal to the living room. "Just pregnancy fatigue. How long are you in town?" 3 days. "I was hoping we could catch up properly. Maybe dinner tomorrow." Jamal settled beside her on the couch, his concern evident. "Lily, are you really okay? You seem sad." Before Lily could answer, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Ethan appeared in the doorway, stopping short when he saw Jamal sitting close to Lily on the couch. Something dark and dangerous flashed in Ethan's eyes as he took in the scene. Lily laughing with another man, looking more relaxed than she had in days. "I didn't realize we had a guest," Ethan said, his voice carefully controlled but with an edge that made Lily's stomach tighten. "Ethan, this is Jamal Carter, my oldest friend," Lily said, standing quickly. "Jamal, my husband, Ethan Blackwood." Jamal rose and extended his hand with a friendly smile. "Mr. Blackwood, nice to meet you. Lily has told me so much about you." Ethan shook Jamal's hand, but Lily noticed how his grip lingered, as if he were sizing up competition. "Has she? Funny, she's never mentioned you." The subtle insult made Lily's cheeks burn. "Jamal is a civil rights attorney in Chicago. We've been friends since we were kids. Close friends, from the looks of it," Ethan observed coolly. Jamal glanced between them, clearly sensing undercurrents he didn't understand. "Lily and I have always been close. She's like family to me." "How fortunate for you," Ethan replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The tension in the room was suffocating. Lily jumped into the conversation. "Jamal is in town for a conference. I was thinking we might have dinner tomorrow to catch up." "Of course," Ethan said smoothly. "I'm sure you have a lot to discuss." "Actually," Jamal said, turning to Ethan with genuine politeness, "you're welcome to join us. I'd love to get to know Lily's husband better." "I'm afraid I'll be busy," Ethan replied curtly. "Business." Lily felt embarrassment and anger war in her chest. Ethan was being deliberately rude, and she didn't understand why. "Jamal, why don't I walk you out? We can make plans for tomorrow." As they headed toward the front door, Jamal lowered his voice. "Lily, is everything okay with your marriage? Your husband seems complicated." "It's fine, Jamal. Just some adjustment issues." Jamal stopped and turned to face her fully. "You know you can tell me anything, right? If you're unhappy, if he's not treating you well, he's not mistreating me," Lily said quickly. "We're just figuring things out." "Lily." Jamal took her hands gently. "I've known you your whole life. I can see when something's wrong. You look miserable." Tears pricked Lily's eyes. "It's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it," Jamal said firmly. "Come home with me, back to Chicago. You can stay with me until the babies are born, and we'll figure out the rest together." "Jamal, I can't." "Yes, you can. You're brilliant, beautiful, and you deserve to be happy. If your husband can't see that, then he doesn't deserve you." Lily was about to respond when she heard a sharp intake of breath behind them. She turned to see Ethan standing in the hallway, his face pale and his eyes filled with something that looked remarkably like panic. "I forgot my briefcase," Ethan said stiffly, but his eyes were fixed on Jamal's hands holding Lily's. Jamal stepped back slightly but didn't release Lily's hands. "Mr. Blackwood, I hope you know how lucky you are. Lily is 1 in a million." "Yes," Ethan said quietly, his eyes never leaving Lily's face. "She is." The vulnerability in his voice made Lily's heart race, but before she could analyze it, Ethan disappeared back into the house. After Jamal left, Lily found Ethan in his study, staring out the window with a tumbler of whiskey in his hand. The sight of him drinking in the middle of the afternoon sent alarm bells ringing in her head. "Ethan, are you all right?" He didn't turn around. "Your friend seems very concerned about your well-being." "Jamal has been looking out for me since we were children," Lily said carefully, "and he wants you to go back to Chicago with him." It wasn't a question. Lily's breath caught. You were listening. I didn't mean to, but yes, I heard. Ethan finally turned to face her, and Lily was shocked by the pain in his eyes. Are you considering it? I don't know, Lily admitted honestly. Maybe it would be easier for both of us. Ethan's glass hit the desk with more force than necessary. Easier? You've made it clear that this is just business to you, Lily said, lifting her chin. Maybe it would be better if I finish the pregnancy somewhere else and just send you the babies when they're born. Send me the babies? Ethan's voice was dangerously quiet. Like packages? Isn't that what you want? Your heirs delivered with no messy emotional complications? Ethan stared at her for a long moment, his jaw working. Jamal is in love with you. The statement was so unexpected that Lily blinked. What? He's in love with you, Ethan repeated. It's written all over his face when he looks at you, the way he holds your hands, the way he talks about you. The man is completely gone on you. Jamal is my friend, Lily protested. It's not like that between us. Maybe not for you, Ethan said, moving closer, but for him, absolutely. And he wants to rescue you from your terrible husband. Maybe I need rescuing, Lily shot back. Something dangerous flashed in Ethan's eyes. From me? From this? Lily gestured between them. From pretending I don't have feelings when I clearly do, from walking on eggshells around a man who runs away every time we have a real moment. I don't run away. You sprinted away from me 3 nights ago, Lily replied. The second things got real. You bolted. Ethan was quiet for so long that Lily thought the conversation was over. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. The thought of you leaving terrifies me more than I can explain. Lily's heart stopped. Ethan, when I heard him ask you to come back to Chicago, when I saw the way you looked at him, for a moment, I thought you might actually go. Ethan's hands clenched into fists at his sides. And I realized that losing you would destroy me just as much as losing Claire did. Then why do you keep pushing me away? Lily asked, tears threatening. Because at least if I push you away, I have some control over when it happens, Ethan replied with brutal honesty. If I let myself love you, and then lose you to an accident, to another man, to anything, I won't survive it. Lily, I barely survived losing Claire. Lily stepped closer, her heart breaking for the man who was so afraid of loss that he was willing to guarantee it. What if you don't lose me? What if I stay because I want to, not because of a contract? People don't stay, Ethan said flatly. Not in my experience. I'm not people, Lily said firmly. I'm me, and I'm telling you right now that the only thing that could make me leave is you continuing to treat me like I don't matter. Ethan stared at her. Something desperate and hopeful flickering in his eyes. Lily, I love you, she said quietly. Not your money, not your company, not what you can do for me. I love the man who makes me ginger tea when I'm sick, who reads poetry when he thinks no one is looking, who asks Mrs. Lynn about my breakfast every morning, even when he's angry with me. I love you, and I'm not going anywhere unless you make me. Ethan's composure finally cracked completely. He crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled Lily into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I can't lose you, he whispered against her hair. I can't. Then stop trying to, Lily whispered back, melting into his embrace. Stop trying to lose me and just let yourself love me back. Ethan pulled back to look at her face, his eyes searching hers. I do love you. I've been fighting it for weeks, but I do. I love you so much it scares the hell out of me. Lily stood on her tiptoes and kissed him softly, pouring all her love and hope into the gentle contact. When they broke apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. What about Jamal? He asked quietly. What about him? He could give you a normal life, a normal marriage with someone who isn't broken. Lily cupped Ethan's face in her hands. I don't want normal. I want you, all of you, the broken parts and the beautiful parts and everything in between. Ethan closed his eyes, as if he were making a decision that terrified him. When he opened them again, Lily saw love and determination warring with his fear. Okay, he whispered. Okay. And for the first time since their wedding day, Lily believed that they might actually have a chance at something real. Chapter 7. The Truth Unveiled. The next morning, Lily woke to find Ethan gone before dawn, along with a hastily scrawled note saying he'd had to fly to Portland for an emergency business meeting. After their emotional breakthrough the night before, his sudden departure felt like betrayal. He left at 5 this morning, Mrs. Lynn informed her over breakfast, her expression worried. Looked like he hadn't slept. Lily's heart sank. After everything they'd said to each other, was Ethan already running again? She spent the day anxious, jumping every time her phone buzzed, hoping for a call or text that never came. Jamal arrived that evening for their planned dinner. Taking one look at Lily's face and immediately understanding, "He bolted again, didn't he?" Jamal said gently as they sat in a quiet corner of a downtown restaurant. "I thought things had changed," Lily admitted, picking at her pasta. "Last night, we finally talked, really talked. He said he loved me, and I believed him." "Maybe he does love you," Jamal said carefully. "But love and the ability to sustain a healthy relationship are two different things." "Lily." "I know," Lily whispered. "But I saw something in his eyes last night, Hope. Maybe. Like he was finally ready to stop running from his feelings." Jamal reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "What if he doesn't come back? What if this was his way of ending things without having to face you?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Then I guess I'll know where I stand." "The offer still stands," Jamal said quietly. "Come home with me. You and the babies. I'll take care of you." "Jamal, I know you don't love me the way I love you," he continued, his voice gentle but determined. "But I also know you deserve better than a man who runs away every time things get real. I can give you stability, Lily. A real marriage. A real family." Lily stared at him in shock. "You're in love with me?" Jamal laughed softly. "Have been since we were 16. I just never thought I had a chance with someone as brilliant and beautiful as you. But seeing you so unhappy," he shook his head. "I can't stand it. Lily, let me love you the way you deserve to be loved." Before Lily could respond, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "I'm afraid she's already taken." Lily spun around to find Ethan standing beside their table, his eyes blazing with possessive fury. He looked like he'd driven straight from the airport, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his tie askew, and his expression wild. "Ethan," Lily breathed, "you came back. Did you think I wouldn't?" he asked, his eyes never leaving Jamal's face. Jamal stood slowly, his jaw tight. "Actually, based on your track record, that's exactly what I thought." "Jamal, please," Lily said, standing between the two men as other diners began to stare. "No, Lily," Ethan said firmly, stepping closer. "Let him say what he needs to say." Jamal's eyes flashed with anger. "Fine. You want the truth? You don't deserve her. You married her for money and an heir. You've spent months treating her like a business transaction, and the second she starts to matter to you, you run away. She's 20 weeks pregnant with your children, and you left her alone without a word of explanation." "You're right," Ethan said quietly, his admission clearly surprising Jamal. "I don't deserve her. I've handled this badly from the beginning because I was terrified of caring about someone again." "So why should she trust you now?" Jamal demanded. Ethan looked at Lily, his eyes filled with vulnerability. "Because I spent 14 hours on a plane realizing that losing her would be worse than never having loved her at all. Because I'd rather live in fear of losing her than live without her entirely." Lily's heart stopped. "Ethan, I love you," he said, his voice carrying across the restaurant despite his attempt to keep it quiet. "Not because you're carrying my children, not because of any contract, but because you're brave and brilliant and beautiful, and you see the man I could be instead of the man I've become." Several nearby diners had stopped eating to watch the drama unfolding, but Lily barely noticed. All she could see was Ethan standing in front of her with his heart completely exposed. "You left this morning without a word," she whispered. "Because I'm an idiot," Ethan replied with a self-deprecating laugh. "Because I woke up next to you, next to me?" Lily interrupted, confused. Ethan's cheeks flushed slightly. "I may have fallen asleep outside your door last night. I wanted to be close to you, but I didn't want to presume. Anyway, I woke up at dawn and panicked. I thought about what would happen if I let myself love you completely and then lost you. And I convinced myself it would be easier to end things before they went any further." "So you flew to Portland?" Jamal asked incredulously. I flew to Portland to meet with lawyers about dissolving our marriage contract, Ethan admitted, his eyes never leaving Lily's face. I thought if I could make it purely about legal obligations, I could protect both of us from getting hurt. Lily felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. You wanted to divorce me? I wanted to free you, Ethan said desperately. I thought you deserved better than a man who was too broken to love you properly. And what changed your mind? Lily asked, her voice barely audible. The lawyer asked me what I wanted for you in the custody arrangement, Ethan replied, his voice rough with emotion. Whether I wanted shared custody, visitation rights, financial support, and I realized I didn't want any of those things. I wanted you to come home with me. I wanted to raise our children together. I wanted to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. Jamal stepped forward. Pretty words, but I tore up the contract, Ethan continued, reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out torn pieces of paper. All of it. The marriage agreement, the financial terms, everything. I drove straight from the lawyer's office to the airport because I needed to get back to you before you realized I was exactly as much of a coward as you called me. Lily stared at the torn contract in shock. But your inheritance. My inheritance, Ethan said fiercely. You're worth more than any amount of money. The company will survive without me if necessary. Lily, I would give up everything I own for the chance to love you properly. Money, houses, business, none of it matters if I lose you. Tears were streaming down Lily's face. You really came back. I will always come back to you, Ethan said, stepping closer, even when I'm scared. Even when I run. I will always find my way back to you. That's a promise. Jamal watched this exchange with growing frustration. Lily, you can't seriously be considering this. He just admitted to trying to divorce you this morning. Because he thought it was what I wanted, Lily said softly, her eyes still locked on Ethan's face, because he was trying to protect me from a life with someone he thought was too damaged to love me right. I am damaged, Ethan said honestly. I'm probably going to mess this up 100 more times because I've never done this before, never loved someone while being terrified of losing them. But I'm willing to learn if you're willing to teach me. Lily stepped closer to Ethan, close enough to see the tears he was trying to hold back. What exactly are you asking me? Ethan dropped to one knee right there in the middle of the restaurant, pulling out a small velvet box that made Lily gasp. I'm asking you to marry me, he said, his voice shaking. Really marry me. Not for a contract or an inheritance, but because I love you, and I want to build a life with you. I want to raise our children together, fight with you, make up with you, and grow old arguing about whose turn it is to change diapers. Lily laughed through her tears as Ethan opened the box to reveal a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. Your favorite color, he said softly. I had it made on the way to the airport this morning, which is why I was so late getting back. You had this made this morning? Lily asked in amazement. I called in every favor I had, Ethan admitted. I needed you to know this was real, that I was choosing you, not an obligation. The entire restaurant had gone silent, everyone watching the billionaire propose to his pregnant wife in the middle of their dramatic confrontation. I love you too, Lily whispered, dropping to her knees in front of him. Yes, I'll marry you, really marry you. Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands before cupping her face and kissing her with all the love and desperation he'd been holding back for months. The restaurant erupted in applause, but Lily heard nothing except the sound of Ethan's voice as he whispered against her lips. I love you, Lily Blackwood, forever and always. Forever and always, she whispered back, sealing their promise with another kiss. Jamal watched them for a moment longer before quietly leaving money on the table and walking away. As much as it hurt to see the woman he loved choose someone else, he couldn't deny the love he saw between them. Ethan and Lily barely noticed his departure. They were too lost in each other, in the promise of a future built on love instead of contracts, fear instead of hope. Take me home, Lily whispered against Ethan's lips. Always, he replied, helping her to her feet. Always. Chapter 9. Passionate surrender. The ride home from the restaurant was charged with electric tension. Ethan couldn't stop touching Lily her hand, her arm, her cheek as if he needed constant reassurance that she was real and choosing to be with him. Lily found herself mesmerized by the way city lights played across his profile, highlighting the strong line of his jaw and the gentle curve of his lips. "I can't believe you kept the ring in your pocket all day," Lily said, admiring the emerald that caught light every time she moved her hand. "I've been carrying it since I left the jeweler this morning," Ethan admitted, his thumb stroking across her knuckles. "I was terrified you'd say no, that I'd waited too long to do this right." "I would never say no to you," Lily said softly, "not when you're being honest with me." Ethan lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her palm. "I want to be honest about everything. No more walls, no more running away." When they reached the estate, Ethan helped Lily out of the car with the careful attention he'd been showing throughout her pregnancy. But tonight there was something different in his touch, something reverent and possessive that made Lily's skin tingle with anticipation. "Are you tired?" Ethan asked as they walked toward the house, his hand resting on the small of her back. "No," Lily replied, though her heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with exhaustion. "Are you?" "Not even close," Ethan said, his voice rougher than usual. They paused in the grand foyer, suddenly uncertain. All their passionate words at the restaurant had led to this moment, but neither knew quite how to proceed. Their relationship had been so carefully controlled, so deliberately distant, that the thought of finally crossing that line felt momentous. "Lily," Ethan began, his voice hesitant, "I don't want to rush anything, your pregnancy, your comfort." Lily silenced him by placing her finger against his lips. "Ethan, I love you. I want to be with you, really be with you. Unless you don't, I do," Ethan said immediately, his eyes darkening with desire. "God, Lily, I've wanted you for so long, I can barely think straight around you." "Then stop thinking," Lily whispered, standing on her tiptoes to brush her lips against his. The kiss started gentle, tentative, but quickly deepened as months of suppressed longing erupted between them. Ethan's hands tangled in Lily's hair as she pressed closer to him, her growing belly a sweet reminder of the children they'd created together. "Are you sure?" Ethan asked against her lips, his breathing ragged. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Lily replied, taking his hand and leading him toward the staircase. They climbed the stairs slowly, stopping to kiss on every landing, their hands roaming and exploring with increasing urgency. By the time they reached the second floor, Lily's elegant dress was wrinkled, and Ethan's tie was completely undone. "Your room or mine?" Ethan asked, his forehead resting against hers. "Ours," Lily said firmly. "From now on, it's ours." Ethan smiled, the first completely unguarded expression Lily had ever seen from him. "I like the sound of that." He led her to his master suite, a room Lily had never entered before. It was elegant and masculine, decorated in deep blues and grays, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. Moonlight streamed through the glass, casting everything in a silvery glow that made the moment feel almost ethereal. "Wait," Ethan said softly, moving to his bedside table. "There's something I want to share with you first." Lily watched as he pulled out a leather-bound journal, his hands trembling slightly. "What is that?" "Something I've never shown anyone," Ethan admitted, his voice vulnerable. "I told you I write poetry, but I didn't tell you that I've been writing about you, about us." Lily's breath caught. "You wrote poetry about me?" Ethan nodded, his cheeks flushing. "From almost the beginning. I couldn't help myself. You inspired something in me that I thought had died with Claire." He opened the journal to a page marked with a ribbon, his eyes meeting hers before he began to read in a voice soft with emotion. "She walks in beauty, like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies. But Byron's words cannot capture right, the fire that burns within her eyes. She carries light within her soul, and life within her gentle frame, two hearts that beat to make me whole, and love that sets my world aflame. I thought my heart had turned to stone, that winter lived within my chest. But she has made this house a home, and given weary spirits rest." Lily felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "Ethan, that's beautiful. You wrote that about me, about you, about the babies, about how you've changed everything," Ethan said, setting the journal aside and cupping her face in his hands. "I have pages and pages about the way you smile, the sound of your laugh. the grace with which you move through the world, despite everything you've been through. Read me another, Lily whispered. Ethan turned to another page, his voice growing stronger as he saw the wonder in her eyes. Before you came, I lived in shadows, a ghost within a living shell, but you brought morning to the meadows, where once only darkness fell. Your courage lights the darkest corners. Your love rebuilds what pain destroyed. In you, I found my truest answer, a purpose that cannot be void. The children sleeping 'neath your heart, a proof that beauty conquers fear, that broken souls can find new start when love draws near. You see me as so much more than I am, Lily said, overwhelmed by the beauty of his words. I see you exactly as you are, Ethan replied, tracing her cheekbone with his thumb. Strong, brilliant, compassionate, beautiful. You saved me, Lily, not just from loneliness, but from a life half-lived. Lily stood on her tiptoes and kissed him with all the love overflowing from her heart. You saved me too, from desperation, from settling for less than I deserved, from never knowing what real love could feel like. Ethan's hands moved to the zipper of her dress, pausing as he had before. May I? Lily nodded, her heart hammering as Ethan slowly lowered the zipper, his fingers brushing against her spine and sending shivers through her entire body. The dress pooled at her feet, leaving her standing before him in nothing but lace underwear and the confidence he'd given her with his words. Perfect, Ethan breathed, his hands skimming her shoulders before cupping her face. Absolutely perfect. But instead of rushing, Ethan surprised her by sitting on the edge of the bed and pulling her gently between his knees, his hands resting on her belly where their children grew. Tell me about your dreams, he said softly. What do you want for them, for us? Lily placed her hands over his, feeling the babies respond to their father's touch with gentle movements. I want them to know they're loved, not just by us, but by each other. I want them to have the kind of childhood I didn't stable, secure, full of laughter. What else? Ethan prompted, genuinely interested in her every thought. I want to teach them about the world, take them to museums and beaches and quiet libraries where they can discover their own passions. I want them to know their father's poetry and their mother's determination. Lily smiled down at him. What about you? What do you dream of? Ethan's eyes grew distant with possibility. I want to read them bedtime stories every night. I want to teach them to swim in the lake, to build sandcastles, to stand up for what's right. I want them to know they're safe to be themselves, to take risks, to love without fear. Without fear, Lily repeated softly. You're not afraid anymore. Terrified, Ethan admitted with a laugh, but the fear of losing you is nothing compared to the fear of never having really had you. Tonight, I want to love you, completely body, heart, and soul. He stood slowly, his hands trailing up her sides as he rose, making Lily shiver with anticipation. When he kissed her this time, it was with all the passion and love he'd been holding back for months. I want to memorize every inch of you, Ethan whispered against her lips. I want to learn what makes you sigh, what makes you laugh, what makes you call my name like a prayer. What followed was the most tender, passionate experience of Lily's life. Ethan touched her like she was precious beyond measure, his hands and lips mapping every inch of her body with reverent attention. He whispered words of love and devotion against her skin, telling her how beautiful she was, how much he needed her, how sorry he was for making her wait so long. He traced the curves of her changing body with infinite gentleness, pressing soft kisses to her belly and murmuring promises to their children about how loved they would be. When Lily tried to hurry things along, desperate for the connection they'd both been craving, Ethan stilled her hands. We have all night, he said softly. We have forever. Let me love you the way you deserve to be loved. And he did. He worshipped her with his touch, with his words, with the tears that fell from his eyes as she responded to him with equal passion. They talked between kisses about their childhoods, their fears, their hopes for the future. Ethan told her about the little boy who had lost his father too young and learned to hide his heart behind walls of responsibility. Lily shared stories of the girl who had raised herself while her mother worked, learning to be strong because there was no other choice. When they finally came together, it was with a sense of completion that brought tears to both their eyes. This wasn't the clinical, distant arrangement they'd originally planned. This was love in its purest form, two souls finally finding their way to each other. "I love you," Ethan whispered as they moved together, his eyes never leaving Lily's face. "I love you so much it terrifies me." "Don't be terrified," Lily replied, her hands framing his face. "Be happy. Let yourself be happy with me." "I am happy," Ethan said, wonder in his voice. "For the first time in 5 years, I am completely, unreservedly happy." Afterward, they lay tangled together in Ethan's bed, Lily's head on his chest as he traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. The babies were active, making small movements that both parents could feel. "They know," Lily said with a soft smile, placing Ethan's hand on her belly where one of the babies was shifting. "They know their parents finally figured it out." Ethan pressed a kiss to the top of Lily's head. "I want to be a good father to them and a good husband to you. I know I've made mistakes. We both have," Lily interrupted gently. "But we're here now, together. That's what matters." "I want to tell you about Claire," Ethan said quietly. "I want you to understand what happened, why I was so afraid." Lily lifted her head to look at him. "You don't have to." "I do," Ethan insisted. "You deserve to know everything." For the next hour, Ethan told Lily about his relationship with Claire, how they'd met at a charity function, their whirlwind courtship, the plans they'd made for their future together. He told her about the night Claire died, how he'd been supposed to pick her up from dinner with friends, but had stayed late at the office instead. "The other driver ran a red light," Ethan said, his voice thick with old pain. "If I'd been there, if I'd picked her up like I was supposed to, it wouldn't have changed anything," Lily said firmly. "Ethan, you can't blame yourself for something completely out of your control." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he nodded slightly. "I tried to tell myself that, but the guilt—" He shook his head. "I convinced myself I was cursed to lose everyone I loved, that caring about someone was the same as signing their death warrant. And now?" Lily asked softly, her hand resting over his heart. "Now I realize that loving you is worth the risk," Ethan replied, his voice steady with conviction. "A life without love isn't really living at all." Lily pressed a kiss to his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her lips. "I'm not going anywhere, Ethan. Not tomorrow, not next year, not ever. Promise me," Ethan said, vulnerability clear in his voice. "I promise," Lily replied without hesitation. "You're stuck with me, Ethan Blackwood, forever and always." As they drifted off to sleep in each other's arms, both Ethan and Lily felt a peace they hadn't known in years. They'd found their way to each other through fear, doubt, and their own stubbornness, but they'd made it. Outside their window, the lake reflected the moonlight like scattered diamonds, and in the distance, the city sparkled with the promise of tomorrow. But inside their bedroom, wrapped in each other's arms with their children growing between them, Ethan and Lily had everything they needed. They had love real, honest, terrifying, beautiful love. They had poetry and passion, dreams and determination. They had a future full of possibility and a present perfect in its imperfection. "Lily," Ethan whispered into the darkness as she began to drift off, "thank you for teaching me how to love again." Lily smiled against his chest. "Thank you for being worth the wait." In the quiet of their shared bedroom, with moonlight painting everything silver and their hearts at peace, they slept the deep, contented sleep of two people who had found their home in each other's arms. Chapter 9. Complications of the Heart. 3 weeks of blissful happiness followed their night of passionate surrender. Ethan and Lily moved into the master suite together, spending their days planning for the babies and their nights discovering new depths to their love. Ethan had never been more content. His smile came easier, his laughter was genuine, and he'd started talking about the future with an enthusiasm that amazed everyone who knew him. "I've never seen Mr. Blackwood so happy, Mrs." Lynn confided to Lily one morning as they folded tiny baby clothes. "He hums while he shaves, now hums." Lily laughed, her hand resting on her growing belly. At 23 weeks, she was definitely showing, and both babies were increasingly active. "He's been amazing." Last night, he spent an hour reading poetry to them. "Which one was it this time?" Ethan asked, appearing in the doorway with his briefcase and jacket. "Byron," Lily replied with a teasing smile. "I think baby A particularly enjoyed She Walks in Beauty." Ethan crossed the room to kiss Lily good morning. a ritual he'd never missed since they'd gotten together. Excellent taste, he murmured against her lips. Just like their mother. Are you sure you can't come to the appointment with me today? Lily asked, straightening his tie with gentle fingers. I wish I could, but this Portland expansion meeting has been scheduled for months, Ethan replied regretfully. I'll be back tonight, and we can go over Dr. Chen's notes together. It's just a routine checkup, Lily assured him. Nothing exciting. Ethan placed both hands on her belly, smiling when one of the babies responded with a strong kick. Be good for your mother today, he told them seriously. No acrobatics during the ultrasound. After Ethan left for his flight to Portland, Lily spent the morning working on the nursery with Mrs. Lynn. They'd chosen a soft green and cream color scheme that would work for any combination of genders, and Ethan had spared no expense on furniture and decorations. Mr. Blackwood ordered 3 different cribs before he found ones he liked. Mrs. Lynn laughed as they arranged stuffed animals. He said he wanted them to be perfect for his children. Lily smiled, touching the emerald engagement ring she now wore alongside her simple wedding band. Ethan had insisted on having a new ceremony to renew their vows properly, and they were planning an intimate celebration for the following month. The appointment with Dr. Chen went well initially. Both babies were measuring perfectly, their heartbeats strong and steady. But as the ultrasound continued, Lily noticed the doctor's expression growing concerned. Is everything okay? Lily asked, trying to see the monitor clearly. Both babies look healthy, Doctor. Chen said carefully, but I'm noticing some changes in your cervix that concern me. Lily, have you been experiencing any cramping or unusual pressure? A little, Lily admitted, but I thought it was normal. The babies have been very active. Doctor. Chen frowned at the screen. I want to do a more detailed examination. This could be signs of preterm labor. Lily's blood ran cold. But it's too early. I'm only 23 weeks. I know, sweetheart. Let's not panic yet, but I do want to monitor you closely. The examination confirmed Dr. Chen's fears. Lily's cervix had begun to shorten and dilate, early signs that her body was preparing for labor far too soon. I'm admitting you to the hospital immediately, Dr. Chen said, her tone leaving no room for argument. We need to try to stop this before it progresses. But I feel fine, Lily protested, even as fear gripped her heart. Shouldn't I call Ethan first? We'll call him from the hospital, Dr. Chen assured her. Right now, the priority is getting you on medication to try to halt the labor. The next few hours were a blur of hospital rooms, IV drips, and concerned medical staff. The medications they gave Lily to stop the contractions made her feel nauseated and shaky, but she was more worried about the babies than her own discomfort. We haven't been able to reach your husband, the nurse informed her apologetically. His assistant said he's in meetings all day. Lily tried Ethan's cell phone repeatedly, but each call went straight to voicemail. She knew he was probably in the crucial expansion meeting, the one that would determine whether Nexus Industries opened a new manufacturing plant, but she desperately needed to hear his voice. Please, she whispered to her belly where the babies seemed to have calmed down. Please, stay where you are. It's not time yet. As evening approached, Lily's condition began to deteriorate, despite the medications. Her contractions were becoming stronger and more regular. Dr. Chen's expression grew increasingly grave as she monitored Lily's progress. I'm sorry, Lily, but we need to prepare for the possibility that we can't stop this, Dr. Chen said gently. 23 weeks is very early, but babies have survived at this gestation. We have an excellent NICU team. No, Lily said, tears streaming down her face. They're not ready. Ethan isn't here. This isn't how it's supposed to happen. I know, sweetheart, but sometimes babies come on their own timeline. At 8 o'clock that evening, just as Lily was beginning to panic that Ethan wouldn't make it in time, the delivery room doors burst open. Ethan rushed in, still wearing his business suit, his hair disheveled and his face pale with terror. Lily. He was at her side instantly, taking her hand and pressing it to his lips. I'm so sorry. My phone died during the meeting, and I didn't get the messages until an hour ago. I chartered a jet the second I heard. You're here, Lily sobbed, squeezing his hand. You came back. Of course I came back, Ethan said fiercely. I told you I'd always come back to you." "Doctor." Chen approached them with a serious expression. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm glad you're here. Lily is in active labor, and we can't stop it. The babies are coming tonight." Ethan's face went white. "But it's too early. 23 weeks is challenging, but our NICU is one of the best in the country, Dr. Chen explained. "We have every reason to hope for positive outcomes." The next few hours were the most terrifying of both their lives. Lily's labor progressed rapidly, and despite excellent medical care, complications arose. Her blood pressure spiked dangerously, and during the delivery of the second baby, she began to hemorrhage. "We're losing too much blood," one of the doctors called out urgently. Ethan watched in horror as the delivery room exploded into activity, medical staff working frantically to save his wife's life. The baby's two perfect little girls were whisked away to the NICU, but Ethan couldn't focus on anything except Lily's pale face and the alarming amount of blood. "Is she going to be okay?" Ethan demanded, his voice breaking. "We're doing everything we can, Doctor," Chen replied, but Ethan could see the worry in her eyes. As Lily slipped in and out of consciousness, Ethan held her hand and whispered desperate prayers. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent months afraid of losing her, and now his worst nightmare was unfolding. "Please don't leave me," he whispered against her hand. "Lily, please. I can't do this without you. Our daughters need their mother. I need you." For a terrifying moment, Lily's eyes fluttered closed, and her grip on his hand loosened. The monitors around her bed began beeping frantically, and Ethan felt his world start to collapse. "No," he said loudly, then louder. "No, Lily, you promised me. You promised you wouldn't leave." Whether it was his voice, the excellent medical care, or sheer stubborn will, Lily's eyes slowly opened. Her gaze found Ethan's face, and she managed a weak smile. "Still here," she whispered. Ethan broke down completely, sobbing with relief as he pressed his forehead to their joined hands. "I thought I'd lost you." "I thought, hey," Lily said softly, using what little strength she had to squeeze his hand. "You're not getting rid of me that easily. We have babies to raise. 2 beautiful daughters," Ethan said through his tears. "They're so small, but they're fighters, just like their mother." "Are they okay?" Lily asked anxiously. "They're perfect," Ethan assured her. "Tiny, but perfect. The doctors say they have every reason to be optimistic." As Lily was finally stabilized and moved to recovery, Ethan sat beside her bed, holding her hand and watching her sleep. The fear of the last few hours had crystallized something important for him. He realized that loving someone didn't make you curse to lose them. Sometimes, it gave you the strength to fight for them. "I love you," he whispered to his sleeping wife, "and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt that." In the NICU down the hall, 2 tiny girls fought their first battle for survival, surrounded by machines and medical equipment, but sustained by the love of parents who had found their way to each other despite impossible odds. The road ahead would be challenging. Premature babies faced weeks or months in the hospital, and every day would bring new worries and fears. But as Ethan watched Lily sleep peacefully, her hand still clasped in his, he knew they could face anything as long as they faced it together. Love, he realized, wasn't about avoiding loss. It was about choosing to love completely, despite the possibility of loss. And Lily had taught him that the risk was always, always worth it. Chapter 10. Love Uncontracted. 6 weeks later, Lily stood in the NICU, holding her daughter Ava, while Ethan cradled Isabella. Both babies had grown stronger each day, defying the odds that premature infants faced. At nearly 30 weeks corrected age, they were finally healthy enough to go home. "I can't believe this day is actually here," Lily whispered, gazing down at Ava's tiny, perfect face. At 4 pounds, she was small but mighty, with Ethan's steel blue eyes and Lily's determined chin. "Doctor, Lopez says they're little miracles," Ethan said softly, his finger tracing along Isabella's cheek. She was slightly smaller than her sister, but equally fierce, with Lily's dark curls and Ethan's stubborn streak already evident in how she gripped his finger. The past 6 weeks had been the most challenging and transformative of both their lives. They'd spent every possible moment at the hospital, learning to feed the twins through tiny tubes, monitoring their breathing, celebrating every ounce of weight gain like a major victory. "Are you sure you're ready for this, Doctor?" Chen asked as she completed the final discharge paperwork. 2 preemie babies is a lot of work, even with help. We're ready, Lily said confidently, though she felt a flutter of nerves. We've been preparing for weeks. You have an excellent support system, Dr. Chen noted, smiling at Ethan, who was attempting to figure out the car seat straps with engineering precision. And these little ones are fighters. They're going to be just fine. The drive home was the slowest and most careful of Ethan's life. He drove 15 miles under the speed limit, while Lily sat in the back between the car seats, monitoring every breath the babies took. They're fine, Lily assured him for the 10th time when she caught him checking the rearview mirror again. I know, Ethan replied. Though his knuckles were white on the steering wheel, I just want to get our girls home safely. When they pulled through the gates of the estate, Lily gasped. The entire front of the house was decorated with pink and lavender balloons, and a banner reading Welcome Home. Ava and Isabella stretched across the entrance. Mrs. Lynn rushed out to greet them, tears streaming down her face. My babies are finally home, she exclaimed, though she was careful to speak softly so as not to startle the infants. The nursery had been completely reorganized during the twins' hospital stay. 2 identical cribs now sat side by side, surrounded by every piece of baby equipment known to humanity. Ethan had apparently been stress shopping online during the long NICU days. You bought 3 different bottle warmers, Lily observed with amusement. I wanted to be prepared, Ethan said defensively. And that bouncy seat was rated highest for reflux issues. Lily kissed his cheek tenderly. You're going to be an amazing father. I'm terrified I'll break them, Ethan admitted as they settled the babies in their cribs. They're so small. They're stronger than they look, Lily reminded him. Besides, we'll figure it out together. That night, as they took turns with the 2:00 a.m. feeding, Lily watched Ethan hold Isabella with infinite gentleness, talking to her in a soft voice about all the things he wanted to show her when she was bigger. I want to take you to see the ocean, he told the baby seriously, and teach you about marine life. Did you know that seahorses are one of the only species where the males carry the babies? Lily smiled from the rocking chair where she was feeding Ava. Are you planning their college curriculum already? Just thinking about all the adventures we'll have. Ethan replied, carefully burping Isabella. Family vacations, teaching them to swim in the lake, reading bedtime stories. Speaking of stories, Lily said softly, I have something for you. She reached into the side table drawer and pulled out a leather-bound book. I've been writing in this during the hospital stay stories about their parents falling in love, about how wanted and loved they were even before they were born. Ethan's eyes filled with tears as he took the book. Lily, I want them to know the whole story someday, Lily explained. How we started as strangers and became a family. How love found us even when we weren't looking for it. Ethan leaned over to kiss her softly. I love you more every day. I didn't know that was possible. It's because our love keeps growing, Lily replied. Every challenge we face together, every moment of happiness we share, it makes us stronger. 2 weeks later, Lily received an unexpected phone call that made her cry with joy. The experimental treatment worked. Her mother's voice was stronger than it had been in months. Dr. Peterson says I'm in complete remission. Mom, Lily sobbed into the phone. That's incredible news. I want to meet my granddaughters, Eleanor Hartwell said firmly. I'm booking a flight to Seattle tomorrow. When Lily's mother arrived and held her granddaughters for the first time, she looked at Ethan with deep gratitude. Thank you, she said simply, for taking care of my daughter and giving me the chance to meet these beautiful babies. Thank you for raising such an amazing woman. Ethan replied sincerely. I can see where Lily gets her strength. Eleanor smiled, bouncing Ava gently. She gets her stubbornness from me too. It's what kept her fighting for this family. A month later, Ethan surprised Lily by announcing that he'd planned their real wedding for the following Saturday. But the babies, Lily protested. We'll be there, Ethan said firmly. Mrs. Lynn and your mother will help, and I've hired a team of baby nurses just in case. Lily, I want to marry you, surrounded by our family, all of it. The ceremony was held in the garden overlooking the lake, with just their closest family and friends in attendance. Lily wore a flowing cream dress that accommodated her still recovering body, and Ethan wore a suit the exact shade of blue as his eyes. Ava and Isabella, now 2 months old and thriving, slept peacefully in matching bassinets decorated with flowers. Jamal, who had flown in from Chicago, served as Ethan's best man with genuine happiness for his friend's joy. Do you, Ethan Blackwood, take Lily to be your wife, to love and honor in good times and bad, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live? The minister asked. I do, Ethan said, his voice strong and certain, forever and always. And do you, Lily Hartwell Blackwood, take Ethan to be your husband, to love and honor in good times and bad, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live? I do, Lily replied, tears of happiness streaming down her face. Forever and always. When they kissed as husband and wife, really and truly this time, their daughters seemed to sense the moment's importance, stirring slightly in their sleep, as if offering their own blessing. Later, as their guests enjoyed dinner and dancing, Ethan and Lily stole a quiet moment alone by the lake, the babies sleeping contentedly in their arms. No regrets? Ethan asked softly. Only that it took us so long to get here, Lily replied, gazing up at the man who had become her whole world. Although I think we needed to go through everything we did to appreciate what we have now. I used to think love was a weakness, Ethan admitted, something that made you vulnerable to loss and pain. But you taught me that love is actually the strongest thing in the world. It's what gave you the courage to fight for your mother's life, what helped our daughters survive when they were born too early, what brought us both back from the brink of giving up on happiness. Love isn't about avoiding pain, Lily agreed. It's about deciding that some things are worth the risk. You're worth every risk, Ethan said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. You and these beautiful babies, you're my whole world. Ava chose that moment to wake up, her tiny fist waving in the air as if she was adding her agreement to her parents' conversation. Ethan laughed and gently transferred her to Lily so he could pick up Isabella, who was starting to stir as well. I think they want to dance, Lily said with a smile. Then let's dance, Ethan replied, leading his wife and daughters back toward the music and laughter of their wedding celebration. As they swayed together under the starlit sky, surrounded by the love of family and friends, with their children safe in their arms and their future stretching ahead full of promise, Lily reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had started with a business contract, a desperate need for money, and two people who thought they could keep their hearts safely locked away. But love, Lily had learned, had a way of breaking down even the strongest walls. What are you thinking about? Ethan asked softly as they continued to sway to the music. Forever and always, Lily replied, her heart overflowing with love for this man and the life they'd built together. Forever and always, Ethan echoed, sealing their promise with a kiss as their daughters slept peacefully between them, surrounded by love that would last a lifetime. The contract that had brought them together was long since torn up and forgotten. What remained was something far more precious, a love freely given, wholly received, and strong enough to withstand anything life might bring their way. And that was worth more than any fortune in the world.